Hello, dear friends. Welcome to another episode of Shillong Reading Room. I'm here today with our guest, Toki Blah, who has brought out this delightful collection of yarns. It's called Yarns from an Administrator, and it's basically memories, fun recollections of his life, childhood, and career in the IAS. And they've all come together in this book, which we have had the fortune of reading and reviewing, and now we'll ask him some questions about it. So we're very glad that you could be part of this, and welcome. Te Toki. The thing is, we've heard so much about you. Now we finally get to read what you're like. So can you please, run us through a little bit about, because this is about your childhood and your life. So can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and your, growing up in Shillong?
Well, I was born in 1948. So the 50s and the 60s were the period where I really grew up, And now that I am already 78 years old, I often look back to those days with a lot of nostalgia. The things that happened in Shillong, what Shillong basically was at that time. Throughout the years, I've traveled to a number of hill stations like Darjeeling, Moki, Mussoorie, Simla, Uti. And it's only when you step out of Shillong that you really can compare what Shillong is, the beauty of Shillong. But having said that, let me go back to what we were saying about my childhood here. We grew up in a very, very sort of liberal atmosphere, be it in the aspect of social life, be it in the aspect of religion. I mean, at least for me and my family, all my parents were very liberal. In a sense that in school, fortunately I was a product of St. Edmund's Shillong. We were encouraged to mix with other people, mixing with non-tribals, mixing with Nagas, with Mizos. I used to have friends in Jalupara, I had friends in Notamai. People would come over, they would come over to my house, I would go over there. There were not the number of cars and traffic jams that you see nowadays. One or two odd vehicles plying the roads of Shillong. And life was beautiful. Houses were the Assam type. Maukar, Rasantia, Gorapati, the place where I grew up in, and Waindo, all had Assam type houses. And we used to go for walks. And when you walked over there, you see these houses with large compounds in them. Now all that has gone. These compounds with the greenery, the trees that used to be there, the famous Sopo Nangklau pears that we used to enjoy, all that's gone. So that is the memory of Shillong I used to have. I wish it would come back. But unfortunately, it seems these areas where I used to grow up, areas where I loved, have really turned into slums. There's no planning. I don't know how people manage their waste. Because when you walk, nowadays, when you walk through those areas, the stink of a septic tank is always there. Unfortunately, I have to be frank. We have to be candid about it. And that's what it's turned into a slum.
So while you were writing this book, what were your, I'm sure you must have had some templates, some sort of influences in your writing, because it's very humorous. And it has a clear kind of, it has a casual conversational style. Who influenced you in this style that you've chosen?
One of my favorite authors class who is also very humorous is, what is his name? He was a vet, Harriet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
James Harriet.
James Harriet. James Harriet was my favorite author. I used to read a lot about him. Then, of course, came Jeeves and all that, Woodhouse. Those were some of the books that we read when we were kids. And we used to love them, exchange books. We used to visit the library at the State Central Library. I used to make inroads into the school library in St. Edmunds. I still remember Brother McCann. He was the one who taught us comprehension. I don't know how he did it. But when he took a class, he'll ask each one of us to take a book from the library, read it, and then write down what you wrote in 4 pages of full-scale register page, And it really improved our comprehension. You read and you cut it down to size, minimize it into a 4-page reading stuff. He insisted on that, and he trained us in this manner. I don't know whether teachers still do it nowadays, but that's what happened. And it was there that I came across another author, a really funny author of our times, who wrote about William the Conqueror, William the Outlaw, and all that. I've forgotten the name of this author. It's on the tip of my tongue. But then these are the books that influenced me,
Right. So I can sort of see where, especially we talk about P.G. Woodhouse,
Yeah.
the style does come through a bit, yeah. So, we were talking a little bit about Shillong, right? And you left Shillong when you passed the IAS exams, right? And then you were sent off to UP.
Yeah.
In those days. So that was 72, right? So how was UP like? Like, you came from Shillong of, let's say, more or less pre-statehood days, the Shillong of that time. And then you went to a totally different environment in UP. What was that like?
There are 2 or 3 memories I carry about UP. Number 1 was UP, the state official language is Hindi, which I used to hate in school. I always used to get never above 5. So you can jolly well imagine my feelings, my emotions when being posted to UP. And I never made a secret about it. I didn't know UP. So more or less I became the butt of so many jokes among my colleagues, which I didn't mind. I took it that way. Then I was posted to a district called Devria. It is in eastern UP. And after my marriage, I got the order to go to. I was posted as additional district magistrate of Pithoragarh, mountainous area in UP. And it was there in those mountains, just below the Himalayas, that I really came in touch, one-to-one in touch with people, Because my DC was a person who believed that as an officer, I had to visit these villages, not wait for people to come to me, but I should go and visit these villages. And it was an experience of a lifetime. I found that the people of UP were no different from our own people. We were Paharis, simple and poverty-stricken, poor. But the hospitality I found in Pithoragarh was excellent. People never cringed from sharing what they had. Then came the time for posting me as a DC. And because of my so-called language barrier, they didn't know where to post me. So I was posted to this southernmost district of UP called Banda. I went to join, And on my way to Banda, I dropped by in Lucknow and met one of my seniors. He was a senior officer. Oh, hello, Toki, how are you? And where are you now? So I told him, sir, I'm being posted to Banda. He got the shock of his life. He said, go get it changed immediately. It's a Batnam district. You won't last for 3 months, my boy. So I came back crestfallen to my wife and I told her, this is what this guy said. But after discussing it, we said, look, wherever we go will be the same because of my language issue. And we might as well take the plunge. So what? I was prepared for that. In the district, I still pretended that I didn't understand Hindi, and it was a blessing. People come to you and they start talking among themselves in Hindi, which I could understand, but I pretended I didn't know. And in administration, I found that was a asset because then you already know what the problem is and how to handle it without the other person knowing that you understand. Secondly, I was a Christian, and UP is a caste-ridden, communal-driven state. Always there are riots between Muslims and Hindus. In the district, I found this, being a Christian, being an asset. People just didn't know into which pigeonhole they'll put me in. And so in a number of times, I remember, being the honest broker between the Hindu and Muslim problem, which I could solve, on the spot. Both sides would listen. They say, okay, sahab, jo aap kahenge, hum karne tayar hai, sort of a thing. And which would not have happened had the person in the chair been a Muslim or a Hindu. So I found this to be an asset. And in Banda, just the other day, a friend of mine from Delhi dropped in. He used to be in Banda. He dropped in here. We were chit-chatting. And he told me that, Saab, till now, in the list of TCs in Banda, your tenure is the longest. I was there 4 years as DC. The longest period for others was 2 years and 2.5 years. So it just shows that I could get along, if you pretend that you don't know, but you are sincere in your work. When I tell a person, "Acha bhai, main dekhunga aap, hum kya kar sakte hain?" He believed me. So in that way,
That's interesting. And so, it's interesting you mentioned that, for 4 years you were there, and it's quite a long time till now.
Yeah.
And how though have you been able to convey such anti-authoritarian kind of humor in your book, even though you are yourself a figure of authority, right? Like, people have to listen to you. You are the DC of this district. So how did you blend? Where did that come from actually? Where did that anti-authoritarian kind of element come into? Because it seems to have been something that even in your youth you had.
Maybe, come to think of it, that you've raised it, maybe this came out of the training we had in Mussoorie. During that period, in my batch at least, we were clearly told that when you go out into the field, or later on when you become senior officers in the secretariat, a lot of political pressure will come on you to do certain things. To clarify your doubts, please stick to the provisions of the Constitution. What the Constitution says is the right thing to do, irrespective of what your senior in the cadre or the politician, even if he's the chief minister, were to tell you otherwise. And I carried this, should I say, whatever was taught to me, and I tried to, perform it to the letter. And I think that by sticking to the provisions of the Constitution, to the provisions of the law, and irrespective of the fights and pressures I used to have with some of the politicians, let me tell you, they were quite nasty. This was what sold me to the public. The public really saw that I was not biased. Whatever I did, it was unbiased, And maybe this saved me, come to think of it. But the people there in Banda, you see, is a criminal district. Very, very criminal. As DC, I seldom would miss a night or an evening without a special report from the police of some faraway police station that a dacoity, a murder, a rape was not taking place. You become so, sort of used to this that at times you just read the report of a crime being committed, and if it has no communal problem angle, you leave it. It'll solve itself. That's the sort of cynicism that you develop, when you're in the thick of a crime-ridden district like Panda.
So do you think your own humor or your, upbringing in a liberal household added to it this kind of humor that you had internally? Do you think that enabled you to fight the cynicism?
Yeah, I think so. Because I found that I liked laughing at my own follies, I made mistakes. I never said that I was foolproof or that I took life too seriously. Even in very, very awkward situations, I still could find time to, hey, I should have done that, and what the hell happened, and still laugh at myself. So I think it saved my sanity in a district which had profound administrative problems. I forgot to say that 1 year into the district, we were struck by drought. And my God, drought is a horrible, horrible, horrible experience, a calamity, a natural calamity to deal with. And I didn't, not meaning to have any self-praise, but I think we handled it very well because I had officers in me who I believe, they believed in me. We always used to have, at the end of the day, I used to have meetings at 8 o'clock in the evening till 10. That was normal, where my officers used to come and report to me. This happened, that happened, during the drought days. And we were really able to solve that problem, though it was really massive.
I want to ask you an incident from one of your stories, with regards to horse riding. Do they still teach horse riding in Mussoorie, and did it actually become useful for you when you actually were posted in UP in very mountainous areas?
I don't know, you see, because the rumor was that Mrs. Indira Gandhi, then the Prime Minister, was the one who insisted that all probationers must learn horse riding. That is, if you can control a horse, then the reference was that you can control a district. Okay, how true that is, I never had the chance to find out. But then the fact remains that these are huge nags, horses, really tall. And at times you're asked or required to mount the horse without using the stirrups. And I remember Nucleus Lalu being the shortest in the batch, Khasi, from here. He was the one who was quite nimble in front of those massive North Indians, tall, hefty guys who had trouble lifting themselves onto the saddle. New could easily plonk himself there, and he was never thrown out of the horse. Never. Once he sat on the saddle, he clung to it. That was beautiful. I still remember those days. And there were so many accidents happened in horse riding. People were thrown off the horses bolted. One of my friends, as I wrote in the book, I mean, he lost his front teeth in a jump. When the horse jumped, he banged his head against the back of the horse's neck, and his teeth fell out. But those were stories that I still carry.
But so, the way I read it also, as a casual reader also, it's something so colonial also, right? To ride a horse, and like you don't really see people riding horses anymore. So that is one angle that I found very interesting.
Oh yes, it is. It is. We had to have solar hats. We had to have riding breeches. We had to have riding boots. I mean, I could have spent that money on a better way than spending money than ordering for a riding boots. Yeah, but then there it is.
So let's talk a little bit more about UP, because UP is such an important state in the country, and you were there, so it was back then. And UP always comes out in the news for these exact same reasons that you mentioned in the book, for law and order, communalism, not so much drought anymore, but still always some sort of calamitous instance whenever UP comes up. So do you think things have changed? Is it also deserved that people talk about UP this way, as per your experience?
I think people talk when they see, they talk about what they see is happening in the state, and we can't escape the fact that UP is a caste-ridden, religion-sensitive state. I've come across cases of caste discrimination in a crime, where in a village panchayat, everyone was sitting in the panchayat, and they sat on the ground. That time we didn't have clubhouses or community halls or that, so people sat on the ground. And during the discussions that happened there, I was told later on that one of the chamars or the Dalits had dared to twirl his moustache in front of the Pradhan, and he was killed then for that. That is the sort of thing. And during the drought, I still remember that horrible, horrible case where the village well, started to dry up. And it was only the high caste people who were allowed to draw water from them. And later on, the lower caste people were allowed. And by the time everyone had finished, there was not a single drop left. And there was this old widow who just couldn't get to the clean water of the well. She had to drink from the water that had spilled in the ground outside the well, and died out of diarrhea or whatever it is that happened. So this is the sort of situation. Even in dacoity cases, Fulan Devi, for example, a low caste fighting against the Thakurs. So it is very caste-ridden in that way, and that's how it is.
You've mentioned here, which I found very interesting, it seems that everybody likes guns there. Where do you think that comes, especially when you were posted there?
Yeah.
Everybody seemed to want to have a gun or a weapon. Where did that come from? Because it's so unusual for us so-called primitive tribals in the Northeast to actually carry around weapons. It sounds ludicrous.
I don't know really what is the cause, but the more guns you have, the more people who follow you and guard you with guns over there, it's considered a prestige status for that person, I remember people coming and meeting me in the office, and my chaprasis would never allow anyone to enter my chamber with a weapon. They were literally body searched before you enter the DM's chamber. Because people would carry revolvers, they would carry rifles, shotguns, and those who couldn't afford, they tucked in a sort of a country-made pistol somewhere in their dhotis. That was a sort of situation. And the pressure of getting a gun license on the politicians is, I mean, it's like nothing I've ever come across. The career, the political career of a person depends on how many gun licenses he could wangle out of the DC. And that is the downfall of many of my predecessors in the district. That is one fact I analyzed, that most of my predecessors in the DC's chair were transferred because of complaints that they were in favor of this MLA or that MLA, for giving this MLA 2 licenses for his followers and giving the other chap 5 licenses. So I put a stop to that. I think I owe this wisdom to my wife because I discussed it with her. And then she told me, she said, why don't you just ration it? Tell each MLA, bhai, I'm giving you so much. See, what I did was, I told the MLAs, each one of you deserved 5 licenses. 5 licenses I'll give you per year to whoever you want to give. But that is the end. You get 5, you get 5, everyone gets 5 licenses. No discrimination. And you should see the tamasha. Also the pressure, no? The MLA would come in with 4 or 5 of his cronies with a darkhas saying, Saab, this man needs a license. You must give him a license because his life depends on it. He has so many enemies. A dacoity has happened in his house. And please give him a license. I demand it. I said, okay. Within 15 minutes of that MLA leaving my chamber, he would call me from somewhere. Please don't give. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that license for that person, because he didn't want to waste his quota. No?
Yeah.
So this was the sort of tamasha that went on over weapons. And you don't feel normal if you don't see people on the street without guns. But coming back to your question, I really don't know why. But I see the same being repeated with political leaders nowadays. A political leader in India will not move around without a bogey of carbine carrying bodyguards, no? Isn't it? This is rather funny. Because you don't see this in other countries. It's only in India.
Yes.
And in northern India.
Particularly.
Southern India doesn't have this. Northeast, south, they don't have this.
Interesting. So, one of the things that I got from your book also, there's a lot of raunchy stories, which I like and I enjoy. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit about, like, it was a, it's a style, it's a deliberate choice to choose the raunchy elements. Why did you do that?
Because I think, don't mind me saying it, I think we Khasis are a bit too pompous and rigid about sex. Sometimes you got to make a joke out of a sexual fact, which happens, yeah. So why not? Yeah. Why not? If it is a raunchy story that can make you laugh, why not? It's not. I don't discriminate against anyone. I have not exposed anyone by name. So people might as well read about it and enjoy it. So what?
Yeah, there's a lot of funny moments in the book. And that was one of the elements that I kind of seen.
It was meant to be so.
Yeah. A little bit more outside of the book, but still connected. Like, nowadays we hardly, I mean, number one, we don't have that many IAS officers passing the exams and joining as IAS officers. But in your time, there were many, but very few served in the state, right? Like, why was this? If you look at people like J.M. Lingdor, yourself, Baprang Roy, so many others, everybody served outside the state.
Because there is a quota system on how people are allotted their cadres. One is by your own desire. You indicate which state you want to serve. And all Khasis that I know of all opted for Meghalaya. But the other system, the rotary system, is that there's a sort of adjustment that this quota, this state depends on this quota of tribals. I think that is something of that sort is with DOP in New Delhi. And so most of us were allotted states outside of Assam or Meghalaya. But now with hindsight, I think it is good because I wouldn't have had the experience I had in UP being in Meghalaya. And people from there mostly try to get out from the state for a deputation to Delhi. And once you're in Delhi, that's where, as an IAS officer, you start making contacts, which is very important when you come back to the state. So the surprise for me in Meghalaya is that most of our local boys and girls, they refuse to go on a deputation to Delhi. The only one so far who has willingly gone is Basundram. I think he's still in Delhi right now. So that's where you make contacts.
Right.
Both political and bureaucratic contacts. Okay?
So you served for 15 years in the IAS, right? From 72 to 87, right? Why did you quit? Like you've mentioned, you just mentioned it quite like in a very casual way in the book.
It was, you see, I didn't mention in the book, but at one point of time, when I was in UP, I discussed it with my wife that it's about time we start thinking about the future. So let's buy a plot of land which is easily available in Dehradun for serving officers. We had even thought of going to Dehradun to have a look at the site and, very easy payment sort of a thing. But then in the meanwhile, since I was the only child of my parents, I started getting reports from Shillong that my mother has fallen ill, sometimes my father has fallen ill. And, the message came through that they need someone to look after them there. If it is possible that they would have passed off at the same time, I come here, finish the rituals and go back, I would have been the happiest person. But I knew it couldn't be. If one of them passed away, the other would be left alone.
Yes.
And we had a lot of property. Someone has to look after the property. So finally the decision came. I sought for it actually. I sought for a deputation to Meghalaya, but got a deputation to the Northeast, to the Commerce Ministry. I came here as a person in charge of Muga development for Northeast India. Stayed in Shillong, got into a big fight with Purno Sangma over where I was supposed to be posted. He told me that I was to be posted at the Mendipathar, a place I've never heard of during that time. And I refused to go. And so I quit. Because I didn't want to go back, so I quit. That was the story actually.
Right.
I came back for my parents. And I don't regret it.
Yeah, so, it's quite interesting that you mentioned that because a lot of people also do make those sacrifices career-wise for their family and friends. And it's nice to hear that actually you kind of chose that over your own.
I had no other way out, no other option, other option.
Yeah. So just towards the end of the book, you also mentioned a bit about, IFAD and how you were fortunate enough to get a job there almost just a few years after you had quit and had come back. You were trying other things, and then this opportunity opened up. So tell us a little bit about that.
My experience with IFAD, when I was chosen to run the NERCOM, as it is called, Northeastern Resource Management Project, was one of those experiences in life which one wants to continue. But unfortunately, it didn't. It had to end because of personal reasons. I was chosen, this was the first instance of the UN and its agencies coming into the Northeast with this proposal for a bottom-up approach towards rural development, And it more or less concentrated its focus on districts that were far flung out of sight and, most important, militant infested. So in Assam we got Karbi Anglong and was it North Kachar? In Manipur we got Ukhrul and Senapati, and in Meghalaya we got West Garo Hills and West Khasi Hills. It was an experience of a lifetime, really. And it was the first time in my life when, after a period of working for 2 years, 3 years, you can really see the results coming up out of the efforts, which is very, very satisfying. I doubt if people really realize the satisfaction you get from seeing the fruits of your labor. We concentrated on empowering women. And when we went to the villages, we found that the problem with women in the villages was two. One, they didn't have a platform to speak out. They were not allowed. Traditional institutions didn't allow women to speak. Another was, they were not allowed, or they were incapable of handling money, which basically means credit. And we concentrated on the development of SHGs, women SHGs. I remember this village, Nonglang, in West Khasi Hills. When we first visited that village, together with Ba Prang and a host of officials from IFAD, and we called for a meeting of the village, all the men came, the women were outside, peeping from the windows, peeping from the door. They wouldn't come. Typical Khasi behavior in the village. And this village was adopted. I'm just giving this example. 2.5 years down the line, after reacting, after having a lot of, paying a lot of attention to that village and other villages in the area, we again visited that village. We visited with Peter Beasley as Chief Secretary. And I still remember GP Walang and some other senior IS officers coming. And you should see the behavior of these women. They just went out and spoke and whatever they wanted, In the first visit, I remember asking them, how much money do you have in the village? People said we have a collection of we collect from the households, and we usually have 1,200 or 1,300 per year, which we spend for Christmas and for New Year. 2.5 years down the line, we went and we introduced the system of savings in the village, credit. We found that these same people, the same village, had now around 60 or 70,000. And they had invested in a plot of land where it was community driven. They had invested in kitchen gardens, selling their produce to Mairang. They even ran a crèche for their children. It was fantastic. So these were the sort of things that happened in Negrims,
Yeah.
Nercom. Then we come to militancy. That was the funny part. And it was very satisfying to note these developments. In one of the districts that we had taken up, it was a very militant infested district. And the way of NERCOM working is that we never want to disturb people. Nah? So we would hold village meetings after dinner. People come back from the field, they have their food, they're free, so they come for these meetings. Not the Babu style or the government style of having meetings at 10 in the morning, where only the old men and the old women in the village are there to listen to you. One of my district managers came and told me, so we're having a very peculiar sort of situation in this village. I said, what's it? He said, whenever we visit the village and we hold these meetings, people who don't belong to the village used to come and sit in the periphery, dressed in camouflage. True, since nothing happened, we said, okay, ignore it, you concentrate on the villages. Then one day, the leader of that so-called mysterious group called my district manager, and he said, look, we've been listening to you. You don't behave like government servants. You come here, you give people time to listen to you. You don't force yourself on people. We have seen the way you have conducted your PRA exercises. We have heard that you want the people to be empowered so that they can come up. So, we will not disturb you. As long as you continue to be pro-people, we will not touch you. And it really happened. I think I mentioned in the book about that issue where the district manager was recalled.
Yeah.
And where the people themselves came out afterwards and said, come and work.
Yes.
So these are sort of issues that they are in these militant infested areas. We were the only organization that was not taxed. We were never taxed by the militants.
So is it safe to say, like in one sense, like when this project was planned, militancy was considered very crucially as one of the things, or was it just a
It was never put in writing, but tacitly that's there. It was never put in writing. The only areas where we were supposed to look at were poverty, remoteness, and then the inability of women to take part in community meetings, and how development has impacted these people. Has it been negative or positive for the last 30, 40 years? Those were the criteria.
Right.
But tacitly, yes, there was that thing.
So before we wrap up, also, one kind of makes this when reading the book, one makes this connection. When you left Shillong in '72, and then when you came back, things had changed so much, right? Like it was a new state, new people were in positions of power, but it seems to me like you brought the riots and the curfews from UP because when you came back, there was also this, there were also lots of communal riots here in Shillong, which when you were growing up was not something that ever happened. Is it safe to say that?
To a certain extent, because the first riot, anti-Bengali riot that took place in Shillong was in '78. In that time, I was still in UP. The second riot, which took place by the time I came back, had been that anti-Nepalese riot, and after that, from Beatrice. I used to ask myself why why have these riots suddenly started? They were never there before. Before we had to make quite free with the outsiders. And suddenly I find when you come back that ghettos or polarization of communities have taken place. Then I realized that perhaps it is influx. That is the main cause. Now, let's take this word influx with a pinch of salt. It's not the influx of outsiders from outside, but the influx of locals from the rural areas into the urban areas of Shillong, where people started seeing that jobs, livelihoods, opportunities were being taken away, were slipping out of their hands.
Right.
That, I think, was the main cause. And it was encouraged by the political setup because it also affected their vote bank, you know. So I think that was the main issue. And from there, a number of things happened. Before that, there was this whole issue of, it's still there now, the whole issue of, what do you call this? Oh, it slipped my tongue, yeah. Slipped my mind. Reservation.
Resolution.
The issue of reservation. It also, I think, played a part. And it has played its part in a very negative way, I think, the reservation policy. In so many ways, but one of the ways I see also is that this inability of our community to produce officers at the national level, all India level officers, is because of reservation. Once there's a reservation, you don't compete. The spirit of competition goes now. During our time, we never had this. We competed with the best that was there. Be it Assamese, be it Punjabi, be it whoever they are. I still remember my school, my classmates in St. Edmunds. Variety from all over the country were there. And we competed freely. Now it's not like that, no? Yeah, okay.
I think also, though, but the argument for reservation has always been not so much about the creamy layer, but also about pulling up other people as well from the bottom. And in that sense, I think it's used that way, but maybe it's not always implemented.
It's not. It's used in a different way, no?
So we've come to the end of our episode this week, and we'd really like to thank Toki Blah again for being part of this lively, wonderful conversation. I would encourage everyone to, we hope to see a reprint of your book. And I hope that when it's reprinted, that you guys go out there and try to find copies of it. It's very humorous. It's a very easy read. It's not, highfalutin, doesn't complicate things. It's very simple and it's very nice. I enjoyed it thoroughly while reading, and I think it'll put a lot of seeds of different thoughts in people's heads. So thank you so much, listeners and viewers. We'll see you again on the next episode of Shillong Reading Room. Thank you.